Hello friends, welcome to the King YouTube channel. The situation is becoming tense. The dislike for Meghan Markle is evident. It's difficult to comprehend how someone can be so openly criticized and disliked by so many people. When only a few individuals express such opinions, it could just be their personal views. But when the entire world seems to use harsh words, it suggests there might be something about that person's character causing this reaction. Yes, I'm talking about Meghan, the woman who is widely disliked and the wife of this individual. The tension is growing and the dissatisfaction is clear. We've noticed before that Harry has seemed unhappy with his wife's actions. For instance, during their visit to the United Nations, he didn't seem comfortable. In a recent CBS interview, as Meghan sat beside him, she tried to maintain control by placing her hand on his thigh. However, he didn't respond by holding her hand or reciprocating the gesture. His displeasure was clear when she performed a disrespectful curtsy, mocking the late Queen Elizabeth II. Yesterday, I shared footage revealing Harry's emotional reaction when his wife interrupted him while he was speaking with others. For a brief moment, his unhappiness and thunderous expression were unmistakable. On the same trip, Harry's displeasure was evident again when his wife interrupted him. Let's review the footage before discussing its implications. The slowed down video highlights Harry's reaction to his wife's interruption. People do interrupt each other. It's common when someone has a thought to share or in urgent situations. However, some people interrupt because they're poor listeners, more focused on what they want to say than on how it affects others. This narcissistic behavior is evident in how she frequently interrupts others while they're speaking, showing a lack of respect for boundaries. She often does this because her narcissism convinces her that she's the most important person in the room, and what she has to say matters more than what others are saying. With a sense of entitlement and no accountability for her actions, she interrupts others to ensure the attention stays on her. Some narcissists may be more subtle, only interrupting when necessary to maintain their facade. Even the most sophisticated narcissists might repeatedly interrupt in private, but they're less likely to do so in public. In front of an audience, skilled narcissists usually manage their facade well. However, Harry's wife struggled with this, as seen when she publicly interrupted him. Do you think Meghan isn't good at managing money? If you agree, comment with the number 1. If you disagree, comment with number 2. The narcissist interrupts to assert control, believing what she has to say is more important. This drives her actions. In the past, Harry was more deferential, often letting her walk ahead while he followed. You might remember when Harry was speaking to a small group of men and she cut in, taking over the conversation. This left Harry in the background, once again playing the role of the spare. When it happened, he seemed disheartened, as if he realized he wasn't being treated well, and it clearly upset him. However, more recently, we've seen Harry respond with irritation and annoyance instead of deference or sadness. As I mentioned earlier, Harry shows strong signs of narcissistic traits such as resentment and anger. His wife constantly interrupts him, saying, "I beg your pardon," which leaves him unable to respond deferentially and unable to hide his irritation and annoyance with her behavior. This is the result of ongoing devaluing actions that have worn down his emotional empathy. He's grown so tired of how she treats him that he can't tolerate it any longer. While he doesn't openly lash out at her in public, doing so would be a step too far. At this point, it's clear that Harry's tolerance has worn thin. There was a time when he would let her interrupt him and either do nothing or just appear sad. Now his irritation and annoyance are evident. This shift was noticeable in Nigeria when she took the bouquet from him, and more recently during a trip to Colombia, where she interrupted him while he was talking to others because she wanted something from him. We're seeing the same pattern here again. Is it true that Harry found his courage in her handbag? Perhaps. What's undeniable is that repeated devaluing behavior has pushed him to the edge, eroding his emotional empathy and leading to heightened narcissistic traits. Does this mean the end is near, or is it something else? Is it possible that the end has already come and they are no longer together, with Harry growing tired of pretending? His emotional empathy has eroded, leading him to show heightened narcissistic traits. Could it be that he's done with maintaining a united front because, as some speculate, they're not actually together? Perhaps he's thinking, we aren't together. I don't love you anymore. I'm not going to play this game as much as I used to. While it's a possibility, I don't believe Harry has reached that point yet. Instead, I think he's becoming increasingly frustrated by the way she treats him, annoyed by her constant interruptions, and is no longer willing to overlook her unpleasant behavior. In the past, he might have made excuses for her, but now his tolerance is clearly fading. Victims of narcissists often overlook the negative behavior, focusing on the good things they receive. However, as time goes on, the devaluation by the narcissist intensifies and the positive moments become rare. This leads the victim to realize that the person they once admired may not be as nice as they thought, possibly even quite awful. Harry seems to be coming to terms with the fact that his wife isn't who he believed she was. He's grown tired of her constant interruptions, her need to be the center of attention, and how she continually relegates him to second place. This frustration is now becoming visible. It remains to be seen whether Harry will take action and break free from this situation, as he's still caught in her web. I don't believe they're separated, and I doubt this is all just for show. I think they're still together because her narcissism drives her to keep the relationship going as she continues to benefit from being with him. However, it's clear that their relationship is under significant strain due to her behavior, and Harry is starting to realize that she isn't the person he thought she was. As this behavior repeats, he finds it harder to hide his reactions and is becoming increasingly dissatisfied. He is more vocal about his displeasure, which could be leading him toward the path of escape. Of course, part of the blame lies with Harry for enabling her from the start. He never should have allowed her to treat him this way, being rude, interrupting, and disrespecting him. Now she comes across as very domineering, trying to overshadow him, possibly out of jealousy of his title. She's determined to be the most important one, but she isn't. A narcissist can seem powerful, but only until the victim wakes up. By now, he has likely been cut off from all his friends. And family, too. She's been pushing him around for a long time. I remember a story from the Harry Markle blog a few years back. They were both approaching a woman, and as Harry started to extend his hand, Meghan, who was on his right, gave him a hard shove and then reached out her hand to the woman first. That was years ago, and her behavior hasn't changed since. Do you think it took him too long to get fed up with her behavior? He must have low self-esteem. Clearly, he was swept along from the start, but it's not entirely his fault. He was vulnerable and hadn't dealt with previous issues or been given the tools in his younger years to cope with someone like her. Hopefully, Harry will realize this and leave her behind. She can go back to her grifting ways. For the sake of dignity, King Charles should strip them of their titles. The Sussexes have certainly devalued the entire monarchy. It might be more fitting for Harry to receive a knighthood or a new title from his father rather than from William, considering the grief William and Catherine have endured due to Meghan. The narcissist remains trapped in her own personal hell, while the supplier, or Harry, could potentially start anew. When they were dating, Meghan demanded that Harry announce their relationship status or she would leave him. Any self-respecting man would have said, good riddance, it's clear that Harry must realize how widely disliked Meghan is. The future seems to be slowly unraveling. Harry, your life has been severely impacted since the start of your marriage and the day you betrayed your grandmother, the late Queen. The unhappiness you've caused your own family is now coming back to affect you. It's truly sad. Meghan's constant pushing to be in front isn't just about seeking attention, it's also a way to assert dominance. She even blocks Harry's interactions with others. For instance, the vice president could never get close to Harry. Harry seems to be the perfect example of cutting off your nose to spite your face, driven by jealousy and resentment towards his family. He chose to marry someone who has turned out to be a major embarrassment, making him a global laughingstock. Do you agree with these views? If so, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. I'm really grateful that you watched my video. Please show your support by liking, sharing, and subscribing to my channel. I'll miss you, but we'll reconnect soon.